Hey, this is Denise from LoomAhead.com, and on today's video I want to talk to you about different versions of the garter stitch. The garter stitch is made up of two rows, one of knit and one of purl. However, depending on the choice of knit stitches, whether it's an E-wrap, a U-wrap, flat knit, or a true knit, you're going to get a different effect. So here you have a garter stitch done using an E-wrap, which gives you more of a curly look, and here is a garter stitch done with a U-wrap. And you're going to get this effect if you use any stitch other than the E-wrap. So let's get started with the actual pattern. So after you cast on your first row for your project, then you're going to start your garter stitch pattern with a knit stitch. And to get this curly look here, we're going to start row 1 with a E-wrap knit stitch. And for the E-wrap, you're just going to wrap all your pegs, all of them. So if you're doing a hat, you know you're going all around, okay? But for demonstration purposes, we're just going to do these first few pegs. So you're going to take the loop that was on your peg that's on the bottom, and you're going to knit off. You're going to bring it up over your peg and knit off. That is the E-wrap knit stitch, and it is row 1 of your garter stitch when you want it to look like this. Now if you're wanting your garter stitch to have a more flat look with less curls, like I said, what you would use for, say, a man's hat, or just even a more conservative edge, then you're going to use one of the other 3 knit stitches. And I'm just going to show you them one at a time here. You have the tightest stitch, which is the flat stitch, and for that you're just going to put your yarn on your peg flat, like the name says, and you're going to knit the bottom over the top. That's the flat stitch. The next one is the U-wrap, which happens to be my favorite. I call this the happy medium. It's a tight stitch, but it's not as tight as the flat. And you're basically going to half wrap your peg, which gives it that name, U-wrap. And you're going to knit off. You're going to bring that bottom peg over the top and knit off. And then you have the true knit, which takes the longest. Of the 3 knit stitches, it's going to be your biggest, and it's going to take the longest. So in this case, you're going to take your working yarn, and here's your peg that's on your loop that's on your peg. You're going to take the working yarn and put it over your peg, and take your hook from the bottom, scoop up your yarn, create a new loop, take the old loop off, put the new loop on. Let's go over that one again because that one's a little more complex. Again, you have a loop that's already on your peg. You're going to take your working yarn, put it over that loop, take your hook, grab it to create a new loop, take that old loop that's on the peg off the peg, put the new loop on. Okay? Those are the other 3 versions of the knit stitch that you could use for row 1. Now let's go to row 2. Row number 2 is consistent regardless of which version of the garter stitch you want to create. And row number 2 is a purl stitch, which is like the backwards of the true knit stitch, in that you're going to take your working yarn and put it under the existing loop. Take your hook from the top now and grab that loop, that working yarn, to create a new loop. Take the old one off, put the new one on. Okay? That is the purl stitch. One more time. There is a loop on your peg, so you're going to take your working yarn, put it under that loop. Take your hook, grab it, create a new loop, take the old loop off, put the new loop on, and pull your working yarn. Now remember that to do the true knit stitch, you're doing the opposite. You're putting your working yarn on the top and scooping from the bottom. So try not to get them mixed up. Your purl is going to have your working yarn on the bottom. Your true knit stitch, which starts with a T, has your working yarn on the top. So that's it. That's your pattern. One row of knit, one row of purl.